Multiple names already connected to Minnesota talking about the quarterback position. We now need to add another to that list because according to Rich Eisen before interviewing KOC during last week's combine, a rumor that he had heard is that Trey Lance could be a solve at quarterback for Minnesota. To which I say depends on what you mean by the word solve. When talking about a starting quarterback, Trey Lance doesn't solve anything. That ship has sailed. The Niners, when you consider the last 5+ years, how intentional they have been at beefing up the supporting cast to where once a quarterback comes in, they don't ask a lot of you. They gave up the farm to trade up for you, taking you third overall. And the fact that all expectations that were once dawned on you were superseded by Mr. Irrelevant, a 7th-round pick, Brock Purdy, it says more about you, Trey Lance, than it does about the Niners organization. They gave him every opportunity to succeed. They said it's not worth our time anymore, traded him to Dallas. The only upside to bringing in Trey Lance as a possible starter for the Vikings is that you're bad enough to where you end up with the first overall pick in next year's draft, in which case, with the first overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Shedeur Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado. Bam. However, if you want to bring him in as a flyer to compete for the backup job, okay, fine. But it brings up a bigger question as far as what are the Vikings likely to do at the starting quarterback position, assuming that they miss out on trading up for a top 3 pick? If you are able to trade up for a top 3 pick, hey, we're off to the moon. But if you miss out on that, the announcement was made yesterday. Denver, they're releasing Russell Wilson. He's been connected to the Vikings as well. What are they likely to do? Not what I or you would do if we were the Vikings front office. What are they realistically likely to do? I mentioned Justin Fields. I'm open to that idea. However, I believe outside looking in that there may have been a bit of a conundrum within Chicago's front office. There's a lot of people within the league, players and front office executives going through NFL insiders that have expressed that they believe Chicago has failed Justin Fields, that there's still untapped potential. There's still something there. There's still upside to him. That Chicago, I would say, they may still believe that there could be a spark to him. However, the risk is that he has to figure it out. His 4th year out of Ohio State. He has to figure it out right now. Because if he doesn't, then that's a failure. If he does, then we have to pay him. But minimizing risk for Chicago, it makes more sense for them to take Caleb Williams, because that way you reset the quarterback salary cap on your roster to where you buy yourself an extra 3 years on top of what you would have gotten from Justin Fields to figure it out with Caleb Williams. However, I would say that they believe that potentially there could be something still there with Justin Fields, and trading within the division and Fields possibly wreaking havoc and embarrassing the Bears franchise as a whole. Man, if we just kept on to him, we wouldn't look like jackasses right now. I think that's a risk that Chicago is not willing to take. I do believe they're going to trade him, but not within the division. Baker Mayfield, he's going to cost too much money. I saw somewhere, I think on Spotrac, that he has a projected value of about 25+ million per year. Too much money. On top of that, there's the uncertainty with him. Was last year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a blip? Will he revert back to what he was, a journeyman before that? It's too much risk with that, financially speaking. Gardner Minshew is very intriguing. I don't know how realistic that's going to be, because if I'm the Colts and being uncertain with Anthony Richardson and his durability, that's a guy, Gardner Minshew, that I want to hold on to. An estimated annual average annual value, $5.3 million. But if he is out there, hey, I'm willing to look into that because at least he takes care of the football through the air anyway, not necessarily when he takes off with the ball using his legs. But I'm going to put this in the intriguing category because to me, it really just depends on if Indy is serious or not about bringing him back. If they're not, if I'm the Vikings, I'm all over Gardner Minshew. Lastly, I've been consistent with this for weeks, and it just seems like the most likely situation to happen, especially before I hit the record button on this video that I'm doing right now. I saw reports that Pittsburgh, they are not interested. They're out. So it takes another team out of the competitive process trying to go after this guy's services, presumably going to sign for a league minimum prove it deal. I'm not saying I want this to happen, but if the Vikings are trading up, if they are unable to trade up for a top 3 pick, all roads seem to lead to the path of Russell Wilson being the starting quarterback for the Vikings in 2024. Your thoughts in the comments section below. We know it's not going to be Kirk Cousins. I would be shocked if all of a sudden Kirk Cousins, they sign him to the record-breaking deal that he's asking for. And I saw last night that Mike Florio of PFT tweeted out, we're picking up very credible indications that Cousins is planning a potential move of his family from Minnesota to Atlanta. We all of a sudden have Kirk Cousins watch going on. What is he, Jesus? Are we going to start doing a flight tracker on this guy? And it's funny because one of my followers replied to me. I basically said, really? We're doing this? One of my followers, Super Nintendo Chalmers, said, how much of this is a negotiating play by Kirk's camp to get the Vikings to come up? I don't think this is a play at all by Kirk's camp. I think this is journalism at work. I think they are really treating this dude like he is Peyton Manning or somebody. Who the hell cares? If we want to talk about another team that's interested in the services of Kirk Cousins, that's one thing. But I have very credible sources, real estate agents that have gotten back to me and said he is potentially making a move to Atlanta. Who the hell cares? One playoff win in his entire career? That's crazy. We're doing Kirk Cousins watch now. Wonderful. I can't wait for this story to be over with. Let's go. Back at it tomorrow. We'll see you then.